Hello and welcome back to Season 2 of the EdgooseWakeford Sportscast. I am your host, Daniel Edgoose, and joining me for another year is...
Yeah, it's me, Ben Wakeford, back again for Season 2.
It's been a while since our last episode.
Yeah, we're on to bigger and better pastures now, aren't we?
Greener pastures.
Greener pastures, yeah.
We got a lot... The equipment we have available to us now is a lot better than it
much
was previously.
Much better now. We don't have cameras today, but hopefully we're looking to get set up. We're in a proper radio suite now, aren't we?
In a proper radio suite and not that horrible little room back at our old studio,
That's okay, you know. We learn, we move on.
So a lot of footballing news to be talked about. We're going to be talking about all the games that have gone by this past week, recapping some of the key points in the NFL, and we'll be getting on to some other things as well.
Yeah, some fun bits and bobs for us to go through, just for this week, yeah.
So we won't keep you waiting any longer. We'll get right into it. We'll start with the Thursday night football game. Titans at Jacksonville. Titans scored 7 points. Jags 20.
Yeah, not much you can say really about the Titans' offense. It wasn't moving very hard. Mariota was under constant pressure. The O-line was struggling and conceded 9 sacks. Calais Campbell was a wrecking ball in there. But yeah, let's talk about the positives for the Jags, really.
I mean, there's not many positives. These are both two teams which aren't really going to do much come January.
No, you don't think so?
I mean, Jaguars spent big in the off-season on Nick Foles. He's not currently with the team, so they've relied on Gardner Minshew, who's been a bit of a revelation in the league.
Yeah, Gardner Minshew's turned into a bit of a meme so far this year, but you always have those kind of guys that come in and do well for a few games and get a bit of hype behind them, and then obviously his personality is a massive thing in the locker room and around the league at the minute.
Well, I mean, it's hard to find in the league a backup which can step in straight away and pick up wins, and a player which not many people have heard of coming into the league, he's gone and picked up a few big wins here.
Yeah, I think he did well at his college in Washington State after he transferred from East Carolina. But yeah, he's come in and led the offense quite well, especially against a decent defense in the Titans. So yeah, I think he's been one positive for the Jags this season.
I mean, Jacksonville always, and I mean for a number of years now, has really boasted a top-level defense. So I think the thinking here is maybe get somebody in who can pick up a few wins here and there, but really let the defense carry the load.
With that nickname of Saxonville, I mean, it's the defense that carries the team normally, but obviously having troubles with one of the stars, Jalen Ramsey, at the minute, wanting to leave, wanting to have a trade. So yeah, what do you think about that?
He's a superstar. He really is a once-in-a-generation type of cornerback talent. Number 5th pick a few years ago out of Florida State. But I think the Jaguars' defense, even without him, is still top level. I mean, we're looking at names like AJ Boye, Miles Jack, Yannick Ngakoue, Calais Campbell. These are some absolute dogs out there, and they really do have the capacity to carry this team. Let's not forget, this team did make the AFC Championship game a few years ago before getting beat by Tom Brady in Foxborough. But they really do have some talent on that defense.
Yeah, they're a good side. Just the offense has struggled in the past few years. Obviously, having Blake Bortles wasn't the best quarterback for them. As you said, they spent big in free agency getting Nick Foles in there to hopefully do a job. But obviously, he's got injured early on, so it's not ideal for them. But maybe their defense can drag them back to the playoffs. And
then, obviously, we have to look at the other side of this sort of game. The Tennessee Titans only put up 7 points. Very disappointing. Marcus Mariota sacked 9 times, constantly under pressure. He's got the most sacks in the NFL this season. He's 28th in passing. What do we think of Mariota then?
I mean, he didn't play too badly on Thursday night, but it was a struggle for him because of the constant pressure that he had. He's obviously good on the run, throwing the ball. Throwing for over 300 yards isn't easy to do in an NFL game, especially against the Jaguars.
I mean, everybody knows that Mariota's real strength to come from running. I mean, we're looking at a quarterback who's never had the type of arm talent which teams like the Titans really, really seek. And it showed when teams lock up the Titans receivers, he's really lost. And to be honest, a lot of these sacks weren't because of a bad O-line. Tennessee Titans have a top 5 O-line in the league. The Jaguars D-line's good, but he should not be getting sacked those times. And a lot of those times it's because he just didn't know where to throw the ball. His reads were off. He was really struggling to read the defense, and because of that, the Titans only put up 7 points, which is pretty shocking.
Yeah, I think that's one of the problems that Mariota has been under. Like the comments of everyone talking about his reads of the defense isn't as good as it should be, probably for a guy who's in his 4th year in the league, I think it is now. So yeah, he's probably an issue that they need to sort out and fix. And when they're playing from behind, their running game doesn't really come into the equation much, which is probably their strongest part of the offense.
I mean, coming out of Oregon, a lot of teams weren't really hot on Mariota in the first place because he lacked that sort of arm talent which teams wanted. He can run the ball when a team's stopping that. He's very one-dimensional, and it just does not work very well. But credit to the Jacksonville defense, they stop the Titans receivers. They're stacked in that area. I mean, you think of just Corey Davis alone; he's a real talent. And then Delaney Walker at tight end.
And the rookie A.J. Brown as well.
A.J. Brown, he's a big boy, isn't he? He started really well this season.
Yeah, anyway, moving on to the next game.
Yes, Giants are at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where the Giants run out winners by 1 point, 32-31, as Daniel Jones made his debut in place of Eli Manning. What do we think of that?
Yeah, that was after a missed field goal at the end of the game by the Bucs kicker. Yeah, and Daniel Jones started off really well in his first career start. He looks composed, even under the pressure that he was under. He was under a lot of pressure by the Bucs defense was getting a lot of pressure on him. But he did really well. He was very composed in the pocket and under pressure. Throwing for 336 yards for 2 touchdowns in your professional debut is not bad a stat line, and also rushing for 2 touchdowns as well. He definitely led the team on the field, but then off the field as well. There's been talks about his attitude at one point in the game. He was like, he got in the huddle and was like, "Let's effing score," and everyone was so taken aback they went out and scored.
Well, for a lot of the game, he was without his number one playmaker, Saquon Barkley, who's now been revealed to
he's
seriously injured his leg.
Out for a few weeks with a high ankle sprain, so he shouldn't be gone for the rest of the season. But that is probably a big loss for them. Yeah,
seen on the sideline with crutches. I mean, they do have some talent on that offense. I mean, Sterling Shepard,
Evan Ingram is the tight end. The tight end, they call him a tight end, but he's more of a receiver, to be honest.
Do you think, in all seriousness, Daniel Jones can? Do you think this is the end of Eli? Is Daniel Jones now the man in the Big Apple?
I think he will be. Yeah, I think he will be the man from now on. But I could see Eli Manning come back for a game or two this season, just purely because of Daniel Jones, just his health. Like I kind of worried for him with that offensive line. He could be. Yeah, getting a lot of hits. So maybe we see Eli Manning a few times again this year, just as like a placeholder while Daniel Jones gets healthy again. But yeah, this is probably the end for Eli Manning, which it's kind of sad. But that's why they drafted him. They're looking for a guy to rejuvenate the franchise.
I mean, this is probably a Hall of Fame quarterback. This is a guy who's won Super Bowls, who's led an organization for over a decade. Do you think Daniel Jones can live up to that sort of level? Do you think he can reach the heights that Eli Manning has set in the Big Apple? Or do you think maybe Daniel Jones is just going to be sort of an Andy Dalton sort of figure, just occasionally make the playoffs, but not really do much significant in his career?
I don't think he's going to be the guy that's going to lead them to Super Bowls and win Super Bowls like Eli did, but I think he can definitely perform well in the team, get to playoff, as he said, like an Andy Dalton. I think he could probably, if they have better pieces around him, they can. I don't see why they can't get to the playoffs and win a few playoff games. But I think Super Bowl, with the teams that are in the NFC at the moment, I think that's a bit far-fetched at the minute.
And on the other side of the game, the Buccaneers beat Carolina last week, lost at home to the Giants this week. A bit of a topsy-turvy start to the season for them.
Yeah, I'd say it's a bit of a car crash at the minute.
But Jameis Winston, I mean, 1 week he looks like he's the guy. It's his contract year. They have to make a decision. Do they move off him or do they keep him?
I'd move off him, to be honest. Just as a guy who watches the NFC South quite with a lot of passion, then I say you should move off Jameis Winston. I think he's too reckless with the ball. He throws too many interceptions for me, really. I don't think he's the guy for Tampa Bay. I think they should move on and try and draft another quarterback.
I think if you look at the greats in the league, now and in the past, you look at Patrick Mahomes, you look at Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, they're all basically very consistent quarterbacks. It's very rare you see them have an off day and make mistakes, which is solely down to them. Jameis Winston one week will look like the big guy in Tampa. Next week he looks like a college quarterback. He looks lost out there, deer in the headlights. I just feel like Jameis Winston needs to get. I think Jameis Winston's a good quarterback. I do. I think there's just a real problem with his consistency. But if he can find that, I wouldn't mind giving him $15 million to $20 million a year. If we're talking about Dak Prescott wanting $40 million a year, I don't think Jameis Winston's worse than half of Dak Prescott.
Yeah, but you think if he's gonna be the franchise guy, I reckon he'll want the security, that financial security. He'll want more than $15 million a year.
And they've surrounded him with talent as well. Mike Evans, Godwin. I don't know. It's just there's something about Jameis Winston which I cannot figure out. And he's been in the league for a while now, and he's still making rookie mistakes. But those flashes of greatness, it gives me hope.
Him and Mariota are quite similar, really, in the way that they haven't really shut down a place in the league, and they've been in the league for a while, and their positions are under threat.
So the Rams went to Cleveland, the Dog Pound, on Sunday Night Football, big game, and they ended up beating the Browns 20-13. A really good game, I thought. A lot of moments which either team could have won it. What do you think about the game?
Yeah, it was a good performance for the Rams, especially away from home. The people were trying to crown the Browns the Super Bowl winners at the start of the season, before the season started. So to go in there and perform like they did was, they did well, especially on defense. When you have a defense with Aaron Donald, I mean, the defense is always going to play hard, play well. But yeah, the Browns were slightly disappointing in my opinion.
Well, the talent they gathered in the off-season, I mean, how could you not put them up as Super Bowl contenders, at least AFC sort of championship level? But there's big holes in that team which you cannot ignore. They've got a terrible offensive line. They traded a Bitonio in the off-season to pick up Olivier Vernon from the Giants. The receivers are obviously absolutely stacked. I mean, this is the best receiving core I've probably ever seen in my lifetime. There's pieces on the defense which look really good. I mean, Myles Garrett is stunning. And yet they're still getting bested by teams like the Rams, who came to their home and basically neutralised most of their offense. Baker did not look like the first pick talent in this specific game. There was moments which I thought, a different quarterback might have done better, but I do like Baker as a quarterback.
Yeah, I like Baker as well. It's hard, though, when he's running for his life every play because of the offensive line. The running game didn't get going really to start off with, and some of the play calling was quite iffy. Like running a draw play on fourth and 9, that just seems ridiculous to me, especially when Baker is supposed to be the most one of the most accurate passers in the league, as you know. So obviously it's not a good play call when you're trying to run it on 4th and 9, especially with a draw play.
Well, one thing which was picked up was how many times Baker was having to roll out to the right because of the tackles getting exposed.
Yeah.
And obviously a throw is going to be a lot less accurate, a lot less powerful on the run, and it will be easier to be picked off, and that's what happened on the game-ending play.
Trying to force it into the end zone. I mean, they started on the 4-yard line, I think, with the game on the line. They needed a touchdown to tie the game. So yeah, the game was on the line, and it got to 4th down, which you shouldn't really think it should do, like especially when you're inside the 10-yard line. And yeah, he threw a pick on 4th and 9, or 4th and goal. So there's not really much to say. I mean, it could be down to bad play calling, could be down to bad decision making, or it could be down to the pressure that Baker's under.
I mean, you mentioned poor play calling. You mentioned earlier the draw play on 4th and 9, which was met with boos from the Cleveland fans because it is a strange decision. If it works, it's a great play call.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, it does look very silly. Do you think Freddie Kitchens, first-year head coach, a lot of trust put in by John Dorsey, the GM, do you really think he's the man that can take the Browns to sort of glory, or is somebody else sort of should somebody else have been appointed?
Maybe he's not the guy now, but I don't see why with time he can't learn, because as you say, it's his first time being a head coach, and they did well last season when he was the interim head coach. So I don't see why he can't step up. He's learning. Obviously, every game he's going to learn something new, and maybe he just needs to learn to not run a draw play on 4th and 9.
I mean, in his first full season, he's having to deal with a lot of personalities in that dressing room, a lot of egos, but a lot of talent. So you expect them to pick up wins, and they've fallen to 1 and 2. You really do think they're going to pick up a few wins, but they've got to get it going.
Yeah,
they've got to get it going.
Yeah, I think now's the time they need to start winning games. Middle of the season's time where you really got to start buckling down to get ready for the end of that season push. So yeah, now is the crunch time really for them. See if Baker can get out of this sophomore slump that he might be or might not be having.
And I mean, they have the Ravens in their division who look absolutely superb. Obviously, they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead, but they still look incredible. And if Cleveland does want to win that division, they're going to have to go right to the end with Baltimore. So they need to pick up some wins soon.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have to go to Baltimore and win, and Pittsburgh and win. Got to win
Tough
those
places.
win those big division games.
Tough places. It's a tough division. Bears went to the Redskins on Monday Night Football and won 31-15. Case Keenum, he's a unique figure in the NFL. Had an amazing. He was very quiet for the majority of his career. Went to Minnesota, played incredible, earned the right to earn a big contract. Went to Denver for a season, didn't quite work out for him, and now he's found himself in the nation's capital. Where do we see the Washington Redskins at the moment? Because they have Alex Smith, who's obviously injured at quarterback, Case Keenum, and the youngster Dwayne Haskins. Where do you see this quarterback situation at the moment? Do you see Dwayne coming in soon, or do they stick with Case for a while?
I'd probably, if I was the coach, I'd probably keep Case in for a bit longer, just because he did well in Minnesota for that 1 year, but then he's a bit off and on really. Last night throwing three interceptions isn't really what you want, isn't ideal at all, especially in a big home game. But yeah, I'd stick with Case just because I think putting Dwayne Haskins in now is probably going to ruin his confidence. So yeah, maybe keep him a bit later for the end of the season when you're playing for nothing. Even though they are 0-3, they could still win a few games and maybe get into the contention for a playoff spot. But I think for now, just stick with Case and then maybe go to Dwayne later. What do you think?
I honestly think the acquisition of Case Keenum was quite silly. You have a guy like Alex Smith, and I know he's injured, but he can still teach Dwayne teach him the ropes. I don't think Case offers much to that team as much to that team as somebody like Dwayne potentially could. I know Dwayne's young; he's a raw prospect. No one said he's going to be ready, but I just think a young, energetic guy like Dwayne could really rejuvenate this franchise. And you've seen all off season teams that have moved off these older quarterbacks and gone with the young sort of talent. It's all worked out well for them. So I think give Keenum some more time. It's too early to tell, but if performances keep not going their way, put Dwayne in, and I think they're not going to win many games. The roster's just not good enough. A lot of their talent's aging. Trent Williams was refusing to play. Josh Norman's quite old. They lost Clinton Dix in the off-season. Preston Smith went to the Green Bay Packers. The roster's not that good. I don't think anyone expected them to make the playoffs. I think just give the young QB some time, then put him in. I would put him in sooner rather than later, but he still needs to learn how to read NFL defenses and learn the ropes.
And how do you feel about Mitch Trubisky's performance last night and over the season so far?
He's a strange quarterback because I don't know where I stand with him. I think he's incredibly limited. I think he has a very low ceiling. I can't see him do it. I can see him being in the league a bit of a Andy Dalton, Matt Stafford sort of figure. Like, he'll be good. He'll do a job. He's not going to win you any playoff games or Super Bowl games. I think there's a lot of talent to be desired, but he can hold it down. But I think if it's 3 or 4 years in the future and he hasn't developed and he's still making mistakes and the Bears aren't really making a name for themselves in the playoff, I think you just move off him.
Do you think this team now would do better with a better quarterback?
I think, well, obviously they'll do better with a better quarterback, but I don't think there's a better quarterback out there currently which they could acquire. I mean, it really comes... I mean, the Bears' sort of staple is their defense, and it has been for many decades. The Bears when the Bears have been successful, they've had good defenses, and this is a tough environment. It's cold, and I don't think Mitch Trubisky really fits the sort of quarterback sort of what the Bears really require in order to win in the playoff. I don't think he has that sort of makeup about him. I'm not inspired by him. His play doesn't necessarily excite me. Do you think Mitch Trubisky can lead the team to sort of glory, or do you think this is his ceiling? I quite
like Mitch Trubisky. I think his skill set suits that offense quite well, but he obviously is quite limited. But with the coach Matt Nagy, I think he could create a good game plan for Mitch to succeed. And I think he did that on Monday night for Monday Night Football. But yeah, I think he is very limited. But I do see him succeeding. I do see him going to the playoffs and maybe winning a few playoff games.
I think he can win a few playoff
especially with
games,
that defense.
Maybe. If the defense is stacked and he's got the right supporting cast around him, he can get wins. But I can't see it anytime soon, truth be told. We'll go on to a real non-contest. The Dolphins visited Jerry World and lost 31-6, taking the Miami Dolphins to 0-3.
The Cowboys play at Jerry World, by the way, if no one knows that.
The Cowboys go to 3-0. Thank you, Ben. The Dolphins obviously in tanking mode.
Yeah.
They're not going to win many games this year if they win one at all. Their roster is just shocking.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe Alabama college football could beat them.
It's probably the worst roster maybe ever.
It's just a circus of guys going around. It's just a carousel of guys going around in different positions that aren't performing.
I don't think anyone wants to be there. Obviously, Minkah Fitzpatrick got traded last week straight to the Steelers for a first-round pick, and it doesn't look like anyone wants to be there, really.
And they're getting picks for these trades. They traded Laramie Tunsil, Kenny Stills, Minkah Fitzpatrick, probably their three best players. But these are top talented guys. I can't quite understand why you would trade a talent like Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's very young, very versatile. He can play safety, corner. He can even play a little bit of linebacker if need be, because he just has that competitive Alabama Nick Saban build around him. He is just a culture changer, man. But I just don't know why you trade him, because
the thing is,
he's tank for young talent.
He's not going to win a game for you, is he? Even if you have him on the team, he's not going to be the guy that wins you a game.
But this is a guy who...
Same with Tunsil and Stills. I think keeping them would have been better than getting rid of them. I know they got picks for them, but these are guys that can help you win.
I mean, but this is a guy who could captain your defense for the next 10 years. And you tank to acquire young talent. You've got one there already. I like the fact that they got a trade from the Steelers, because that Steelers pick could really look like a top 5 pick. And I mean, if you're trying to... I mean, the Dolphins are going to get the number 1 pick. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So you could be looking at a number 1 pick and maybe a top 10 pick. Remember a couple of years ago, the Browns drafted Baker at 1, Denzel Ward at 4.
Yeah.
I think the Dolphins could have a similar
maybe
situation.
Maybe they're looking at the Browns and making moves to try and do something similar to them.
I can understand Laramie Tunsil being moved. I can understand Kenny Stills. I can't get my head around Minkah Fitzpatrick, and I know there's a lot of teams who would love to have a talent like Minkah on their roster, and the Steelers were the ones who sort of poached him in the end.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it's a bit of a steal for them, but the Dolphins are a strange one. And now let's talk about the Cowboys. Talk about Dak Prescott, the guy who's leading their franchise, and Ezekiel Elliott, who obviously ran well yesterday and got his contract that he wanted.
Look, the Dallas Cowboys had a lot of drama in the offseason regarding contracts, as you mentioned. Zeke wanted to get paid, Dak wanted to get paid, and that really, really concerned me about the Cowboys. I did not think they'd start as well as they have. I thought there'd be a lot of drama in that dressing room about off-field issues. But credit to Dak Prescott and Jason Garrett. They treated it like absolute professionals, and they've got the job done, and they're 3-0. And they've started incredibly well. Their team looks legit. It really does. And in a division that has Washington, who I do not think will do great at all, as mentioned. The Giants, who probably tanking for a pick, and Philly, who could
look average.
Who do look very average and could be a very average team this season, although there is bright spots in that team.
Yeah.
I think the Giants are... I think the Cowboys are destined to win the division. I do. And they've started really well, and if they keep going and they can get Dak happy and getting paid, I don't see why they can't make a late postseason push.
How far do you think they can go in the playoffs?
I think they're a really good footballing team, but I don't think very far just because of the nature of the NFC. I think there's so many talented teams. I think they'll get to the divisional round and probably lose to either the LA Rams, the Green Bay Packers, a team like that.
Yeah, fair enough.
How do you think Ezekiel Elliott's been playing so far?
Yeah, I think the first 2 weeks he's probably a bit out of shape because obviously he'd been holding out for his contract, which he then got. He's come back and he's obviously happy now. Now he's been paid. Now he's got the money he deserves. And yeah, I think he'll probably end up being one of the top leading rushers in the league, because I do believe he is the best running back in the league.
Would you have paid Zeke that money, or would you have sort of saved that money for Dak Prescott? Because there is going to be cap issues.
I think it's more important to pay Dak, but I think Zeke is so important for the team as well, because he was the guy they picked with the 4th overall pick. He's obviously someone they put a lot of faith in, and now he obviously he's been a leading rusher for 2 of his 3 or 4 years. So he's obviously got a lot of faith. The team have got a lot of faith in him, and the franchise has got a lot of faith in him, and they really want him to stay. And I think he deserved a paycheck.
I mean, he's a real once in a generation sort of running back talent, but the money he was asking for is
a lot of money, and running backs can get injured a lot. Obviously, the amount of runs he actually goes through in a season is ridiculous, and you can just see his body breaking down maybe in a few years. And obviously, he's got a big contract, so he wanted that money to kind of secure his future as like a rich man. But yeah, we'll see how he goes. Maybe he can last 4 or 5 more years, and that'll be good for the Cowboys.
And then the next game we have Carolina visiting the desert in Arizona, playing the Cardinals. They won 38-20. Some big talking points in this game. Obviously surrounding Kyler Murray getting sacked 8 times, and Cam Newton's
disappearance.
His disappearance, and the potential coming of the new Panthers' future quarterback.
I mean, yeah, you probably think that. You can tell what the Panthers' offense can do when they've got a capable guy who can actually throw the ball there in the backfield. I think Cam Newton's time is probably done in Carolina.
I think Cam's never been the same since the injury he picked up against Pittsburgh last year, which really ended the Panthers' season last year, because they were 6-2 before they started losing. Now Cam, with that Buccaneers game last week, he's lost 9 starts in a row, and that is really, really concerning for a roster which is absolutely stacked in certain areas. I mean, the Panthers' receivers, probably the best they've been in years since the Steve Smith days. Curtis Samuel, Hogan, DJ Moore. There's some real talent on that team, and obviously Greg Olsen. But Kyle Allen, man, I mean, this is a guy who went undrafted, picked up by the Panthers, was then waived, then re-signed. He's had a real journey, and a homecoming in Arizona where he played high school. He threw 4 touchdown passes and really looked like a guy who excited that whole roster.
Yeah, he looks like a guy who, he's obviously got a bit of talent, but going and drafting and then coming in, working on his game. I don't know how he's learned from Cam Newton, but he must have learned something. And he's come out and thrown 4 touchdowns in his first professional start, so it's very impressive.
I mean, this is a guy who was the number 1 high school prospect in his respective class. Can you really move off Cam yet? I mean,
I think if it was anyone else, they probably wouldn't have. But because it's Cam, former MVP, former number 1 overall pick, they've got so much faith in him. They need him to succeed. So I don't think they'll move off him like straight away just because of one good performance from Kyle Allen. But it must be ticking in North Turner and Ron Rivera's head. Like, what can we do? What can we do with the quarterback situation? Should we start Kyle Allen, or should we go back to Cam? I mean, Cam's obviously been poor in his past performances, losing 9 games in a row. That's shocking.
So, Panthers obviously got the win, and then staying in the NFC South, we talk about the Saints game. They won 33-27 at Seattle Seahawks up in the Northwest. The Saints went into the game without their Hall of Fame quarterback Drew Brees. How do you think the Saints fare without him? Can they still be a playoff team?
I think we can stay in contention the first few weeks that Drew's injured, but then when he comes back, I think we'll push on for the playoffs. I think we'll probably end up winning the division anyway, but just because of how poor the rest of the teams are in the division and how they've started off this season. But yeah, I think going out without Brees, I think Teddy did an admirable job in his first full start as the starter. They had a game plan which was use Kamara as much as possible, and they were helped by the defense who got a score and the special teams because we got a punt return for a touchdown as well. So we did very well. The Saints did very well.
Obviously, you're a Saints fan, so you're happy with that win. In regards to Seattle, can they be a playoff team? I mean, Russell Wilson's obviously a Hall of Fame, probably, but he will most likely be a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, the talent is there. They obviously drafted DK Metcalf, an absolute beast out of receiver, and they have a lot of really good players as well. But the Saints, do you think this loss really, we can look too much into it for Seattle? Do you think their season will not be as successful as it could be?
I don't think we should look too much into this loss because of also the Seahawks are in a pretty poor division apart from the Rams. I mean, they're gonna they'll they'll sweep cut the Cardinals and they'll beat them. And yeah, I think they can get to the playoff. Maybe as a wild card team, maybe they can do that. But yeah, I think obviously Russell, as you said, I do believe Russell is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Even now, he's got to 2 Super Bowls. He's done incredibly well. He's led a team which has had a poor offense in the past. He's led a team pretty much single-handedly. So yeah, I think they'll probably make the playoffs.
Where do you see the Saints' record sort of falling this year? Because they have a tough schedule. They host Dallas. They host Tampa as part of the divisional games, obviously. Then they are at Jacksonville. They're at Chicago. That is absolutely brutal. They got the Cardinals at home. They got a bye week. They got the Atlanta Falcons, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they host the Carolina Panthers. Then they're at the Atlanta Falcons. And then they host the San Francisco 49ers, Indianapolis Colts, go to Tennessee, and then go to Carolina. I mean, it is a tough schedule.
That is a tough schedule, but I think we've got a good team, a decent enough defense to try and, do some damage on some of those teams. But I do think maybe end up with a 9-7 record or a 10-5 record or 10-6 record and make the playoffs as the division winners.
Say, obviously, Drew's injured. Say this is the end of his career, this year or next year. Do you see Teddy as the guy going forward, or do the Saints move off him and look for somebody younger or somebody else?
I think Drew, this next year will probably be Drew's last year as the starting quarterback for the Saints. And I see Teddy as kind of a guy who can do the job reasonably well, but he's not the same caliber quarterback as what Drew is. So I think probably go find a young quarterback who can do a bit of a better job than Teddy, even though he'll be a good game manager for us. And if we keep the weapons that we have, I think he can do a really good job.
So those are the sort of key games that we picked out from this past week in the NFL. Obviously, next week there's a lot of good games as well, and next week we will be covering those similar to how we have today, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of talking points. So as we look ahead to next week's games, we have Ben's Burning 5.
Yeah, so coming up on this Sunday, I'm going to take the Browns at the Ravens. I'm just thinking the Browns are going to win that game. Not comfortably, but I think they're going to pull out of the bag. Next, I think the Saints are going to the Cowboys going to the Saints. I think the Cowboys are probably going to win this game just because of the talent on the roster, the running game, the defense, and the Saints obviously not having Drew Brees. Then the next, I've got the Bengals at the Steelers. I think the Bengals can go in there. After an 0-3 start, I think they're going to be determined to get a win. So I think they're going to beat the Steelers. And then the Raiders at the Colts. These are all away games. I think the Raiders are going to beat the Colts just because I think John Gruden's going to come up with a good game plan. And then I'm taking the Titans at the Falcons because they're going to be obviously very motivated after their loss against the Jags.
But now it's time for
Goose's top performers of the week.
Look, a lot of key performers this week. A lot of guys moving up in the ranks. Number 5, I'm going Patrick Mahomes. Look, the Chiefs go to 3-0 after beating the tough Baltimore Ravens at home at Arrowhead. They go 3-0, Ravens at 2-1. This guy has it all, man. I mean, this guy is an absolute stud. I'm talking, this is the complete package. He's the best quarterback in the NFL that I've ever seen in my life outside of anyone called Tom Brady. I think in terms of raw talent, Patrick Mahomes really is the guy that's going to be a franchise quarterback for the next 15 years. And with offensive play calling genius Andy Reid, this could be the next dynasty. I think New England's obviously getting older. Belichick and Tom Brady will be gone soon. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid with the Chiefs will rule this AFC for the next 15 years. And number 4, I'm going with a defensive player, Clinton-Dix. Look, this guy's always been talented. A real smooth safety, especially for Green Bay and then Washington. Now with Chicago Bears as they picked up the win at Washington. He had 9 combined total tackles at safety with 2 interceptions. These are big picks which ultimately helped the Bears win away at Washington. And I think Clinton-Dix is a real nice compliment to the defense, which has already stacked before. Clinton-Dix is my 4th top performer. At number 3, I'm going Kyle Allen. Look, the Panthers have had a good QB for 9 years, but he can't throw accurately. Kyle Allen's come in, he looks very solid, and has made a real case to start the next couple of weeks while Cam recovers. 4 total touchdowns and the whole team looked rejuvenated under him. I think Kyle Allen could be the guy for the next few weeks for the Carolina Panthers. Number 2, staying in the NFC South, Shaquille Barrett. Tampa Bay's defensive star in that Giants game, although they did lose, they knew they had to get pressure to a young Daniel Jones. It was so critical that they put him under pressure. They know he had talent, but he's not used to an NFL sort of game. And Shaquille Barrett had 4 total sacks. Last week he had 3 against Carolina Panthers and Cam Newton. 7 in total in 2 weeks. He looks like a real stud pickup for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And at number 1, how could it not be a young Daniel Jones stepping in for his first career start? He played absolutely brilliantly and has really given that Giants organisation that real glimmer of hope. He can still learn from Manning, who will be sitting on the sidelines for the near future while Jones develops. But this was a real step in the right directions for the organisation and Daniel Jones. He threw for 336 yards and had 2 touchdowns. A real nice performance from Daniel Jones.
Right, thanks for that, Goose. That was very good. And now for our early Super Bowl picks. Starting off for you, Goose. What do you think?
Well, originally I was going to pick the Green Bay Packers. Look, Aaron Rodgers is an absolute stud, and it's for the first time in his career. Really, he has a really, really stacked defense. However, I'm going to go with the LA Rams. Super Bowl runners-up last year, losing to the Patriots. They got the best young head coach in football by far, I believe. Goff has another year of experience under his belt. They've just picked up a big win against preseason Super Bowl contenders Cleveland. Aaron Donald's back looks like a beast again. Defense looks solid. Brandon Cooks is an absolute stud. I think the Rams have a real good chance of going all the way this year. I really do.
Yeah, that's a good pick, Goose, but I think it's going to be the New England Patriots. What a surprise. But yeah, I think New England are going to be the team to beat this year, definitely, especially after starting so well and so dominantly. Obviously, the defense is just what it is under Bill Belichick. It's just, even if people come, people go, but they still stay the same. They're so stingy with how they play. And yeah, obviously you got Tom Brady back there, and the offense works just so well with wide receivers like Philip Dorsett and Josh Gordon. They're just getting open all the time, and they're catching touchdowns, and the running game's good. Sony Michel, Rex Burkhead, guys that, like, put someone like Rex Burkhead, you don't think he'd be an amazing player, but under Bill Belichick and with Tom Brady, he's next level. He looks next level. So yeah, I think the Patriots for me.
I personally as well think the Dolphins have a really good chance of winning it.
The only thing they're going to win is Tank for Two a race.
That was our early Super Bowl picks. Obviously, as the season progresses, we'll get a better understanding of how teams perform and who really could be contenders. Thank you very much for listening to episode 1 of season 2 of the EdgooseWakeford Sportscast. We appreciate it a lot. I'm Daniel Edgoose. Joining me has been
Ben Wakeford. Thank you everyone for listening.
And we will see you next week for episode 2. Bye-bye.
Bye.